Back when it was just one movie, Raiders of the Lost Ark, you had one hat. Well, two hats really, but we'll get into that in a minute. You had one hat. It was a sable hat produced by Herbert Johnson Hatters, and it had a dimensionally cut brim, which means it's longer front to back than it is on the sides. And the front to back brim width was 2 3/4, and the side brim width was 2 5/8. The crown height was 5.5 inches. That's uncreased, and the ribbon was a dark brown 1.5 inch grosgrain ribbon with a bow. And Harrison Ford wore the hat a little bit turned toward his right to where the bow was just over the corner of his left eye. And then he pinched it. So it had a little bit of a wonky look, and we'll see if I can't do that. I'm not gonna do the pinch, but it had a little bit of a wonky look, kind of like that. But he pinched it like right there. And the crown was very straight-sided, almost stovepipe, and some scenes had a little bit of a mushrooming effect to where, you know, it kind of looked like that. So instead of a taper, it would have a reverse taper or a mushrooming effect on it. Then Temple of Doom come out, and Herbert Johnson said that they lost the original hat blocks for the hat, for the Raiders of the Lost Ark hat. So they had to come up with a new block, and therefore a new style of hat. Of course it was going to be new hats, it's a new movie. But the hat on Temple of Doom, it looks to be a little bit shorter, and it's not quite so straight-sided. It has a hair of a taper to it. A lot of people point to the airplane scene where he's flying the plane running out of fuel. Now Willie has taken, previous to that, she has taken his hat and fanned him with it, trying to wake him up, and she left dents in the back of it. And that will make a hat look like it's more tapered. Let's see. See how it's nice and straight-sided? There are no dents in it. Now, if I'm to take the hat off and I'm going to crush it a little bit, it's got a taper to it, see? And you can see in the movie, see there? It's got a bit of a taper to it because I did that. Now let's see, let's pop it back out and we'll see if we can't see a difference. Yeah, huh? There's a little bit of a difference there. Or if you look close in that scene in the movie, you can see where he's got a dent on the, yeah, back here on his head. But it's a different look of a hat. It's got a shorter crown. It is not quite so tight pinched in the front. The Raiders of the Lost Ark hat was very tightly pinched from top to bottom of the crown. While Temple of Doom, the crown is a little more loose. Both hats, Raiders of the Lost Ark and Temple of Doom, made out of rabbit felt. The Raiders of the Lost Ark hat was a very thin, very floppy rabbit felt hat. The felt used for the Temple of Doom hats was a little stiffer. And I believe they used the same felt for the Last Crusade hats. Now the Last Crusade hat apparently is a little bit straight-sided in the crown, maybe a little bit taller in the crown, but it kept with the loose pinch from Temple of Doom. So it was kind of a meld, a kind of a blending of Temple of Doom and Raiders of the Lost Ark on those hats. The ribbons are the same, brown ribbons. The dimensions are the same as far as the brim and the crown height go. And then you come to Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. And all previous hats were made by Herbert Johnson. Well, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull comes out, and Steven Spielberg went with a different hat maker. He went with AdVintage Hat Company. Steve Delk and Mark Kidder, they made the Indy hats out of beaver felt. So once you had sable colored rabbit felt hats made by Herbert Johnson, now you have sable colored beaver felt hats made by AdVintage Hat Company. So there you go. There's another difference right there in the Indiana Jones hat and what makes an Indiana Jones hat. And in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, they didn't want a return to the Raiders look. He wanted more of a continuation of the Last Crusade look. And it looks really good. That's a very good looking hat. And then we move on to Dial of Destiny. Well, Dial of Destiny, when it was starting production, Michelle Poirier-Sleeman was working at Herbert Johnson Hatters, and she brought back the great reputation of Herbert Johnson Hatters. And Steven Spielberg went with Herbert Johnson for the hats of the Dial of Destiny. Rabbit felt, same dimensions, front to back, side to side, crown height, and ribbon width and all that. This time, it's in nutmeg. So the felt is in the nutmeg color, and this time is more of a matching ribbon for the hat. So there's another option there. There's another difference, another option for your Indiana Jones hat. And then you want to get into some more differences. You can get into the travel hats that he wears. In Raiders of the Lost Ark, he wears a dark gray with a black grosgrain ribbon Herbert Johnson fedora on the seaplane where he's going to Nepal. And then you have, in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, you have more of a moonstone hat with a black grosgrain ribbon in it. So you've got your choice of Indy hats right there. Now, another thing that makes a good Indy hat is it doesn't come off. Whether you're in extreme peril or not, the hat will not come off. Unless you're doing some kind of a gag. Unless, you know, you're about to kiss your lady and she rips it right off of you. Or unless you're in a tank and you're about to go over a cliff, then the hat just decides it wants to go. It's not going with you down that cliff. The hat stays on. Or if you're in a room where the ceiling's closing in on you, it's going to come off then too. And you have to risk your arm to grab it back. Other than that, the hat stays on. But really and truly, what makes an Indy hat? An Indy hat is you. And I know that sounds a little cheesy, that sounds a little corny, but to keep the spirit of Indiana Jones alive, wearing a good old-fashioned fedora in your daily life, doing what you have to do to get the job done, which is what Indy did. He did what he had to do to get the job done. And you, in doing that, doing what you have to do to get the job done and wearing that hat at the same time, that makes it an Indy hat. People going to work with their hats on. Maybe they're wearing a leather jacket. Maybe they've got on their Indy boots. You know, all these are daily wear items that really keeps alive the spirit of Indiana Jones. You know, oh, I really like your shoes. Oh, great, these are my Indy boots. I really love your jacket. Oh, great, thanks. This is my Indy jacket. I love your hat. Most people would say, hey, nice Indy hat. And you know what? When they say, hey, Indiana Jones, check to see if they're smiling, because I bet they are. Because you know, it doesn't matter whether you're crunching numbers or whether you're working in a restaurant, whether you're delivering mail, whether you're building cars, parts for cars, putting together lawnmowers, slinging burgers, or trying to figure out how to market your product. Wearing this hat is keeping the spirit of adventure alive. So whether you're punching Nazis, trying to keep a diary safe, looking for your old man, trying to keep a long-lost girlfriend from getting bit by a bunch of snakes, trying to keep from getting your heart ripped out by a bunch of cultists, trying to stay out of the mouths of alligators, or trying to save the world from a Nazi incursion, as long as you keep your hat on, it makes it an Indy hat. Hey, thanks so much for coming back. I really appreciate it. If you like what I'm doing here, hit the subscribe button for me. That would really help me out. And like the video, that pushes up in the rankings there. Okay, well, until we see you again, y'all have a wonderful week, and God bless.